Hi there from Chicago. This is Big Ten Today, presented by Gatorade. Thrilled to have you with us. Mike Hall and Shimmy Miller. Buzz Williams is going to join us in just a little bit to talk about taking over the Maryland men's program. But we start off with the women because we are just hours away from UCLA in their first ever Final Four. They've been at the Final Four back in the 70s before the NCAA tournament.
Cori Close will be the first one to tell you that.
That's right. But in the NCAA tournament era, the first time the program's been there. Pretty cool.
Which is amazing when you think of how much talent that UCLA has had over the years. But also pretty awesome because this is the third straight year that a Big Ten team has been in the women's Final Four.
That's right. Iowa the last 2 years made it all the way to the national championship game. Could not close it out. This year it is UCLA, the #1 overall seed in the tournament, and it is our big story. They are 34-2 on the season right now, entering the Final Four. They're 2 games away from being national champs, which again they haven't done in the NCAA tournament era. But they're taking on UCONN, which means Paige Beckers, which means Sarah Strong, which means a really talented team left and right. When these two meet up, it will be the 9th time all-time they have met. UCLA only won back in 2023. UConn, of course, is the powerhouse program in the sport. More Final Four appearances than any program all-time. And it is going to be a matchup of star versus star. Not literally, because Paige Beckers and Lauren Betts play different positions, but still, you could argue a top 5 player in the game is on each team right now. So let's break down this situation we have in Tampa. And I want to start kind of real big picture. You mentioned the fact it's the 3rd year in a row the Big Ten has a team in the Final Four. How about the fact that UCLA is doing it not just for the first time in this particular tournament's era, but they're doing it in their first year in the Big Ten. Their first year having to deal with travel issues, their first year facing new opponents, and they're 34-2 and this close to a national championship.
Well, you could just point to the Naismith Coach of the Year and Cori Close to answer all of that, Mike. Like, attitude is a decision. I believe that. I believe that with all my heart. And there's been times, countless times throughout the year where Cori Close refused to use travel as an excuse for anything. In fact, she flipped it. It was gratitude. We are grateful that we get to go to Maryland. We are grateful that we get to spend 5 days in the middle of winter in the Midwest. And that type of attitude starts to trickle on to the rest of your players. She's a tremendous leader. That's why she has this team in this position. So their success doesn't surprise me. And I'm grateful that they're doing it in the Big Ten, but I think if they were in any conference, they would find themselves in this position.
They're in this position for the first time as a program, for the first time as a coaching staff, for the first time as a group of players. There is no one on this roster or staff that has been to a Final Four before. How much does that matter in the women's game in particular?
Again, I'm going to point to the leadership. Leadership starts at the top. We watched their press conference, and they just looked so composed. They looked so mature. They didn't look giddy or nervous or, hey, we're happy to be here. In fact, Cori Close started her opening statement with, hey, we expected to be here. And she called it this tournament, which I really like too. Like it's like another Thanksgiving tournament. We expected to be playing in this tournament at the end of the season, and their demeanor showed that.
We can talk a lot about UCLA's team, and we will, but it is important in the Final Four to talk about, they're facing the Yankees, right? I mean, let's be real. This is the dominant program in the history of the sport. You saw more Final Fours for UConn than any. They have arguably the greatest coach in the history of the sport. They have one of the program's all-time great players leading them in Paige Beckers. They are technically a 2 seed. That plucky underdog 2 seed, the only non-1 seed to be there, but in no way are they actually a 2 seed. They're a really good team.
They're not a 2 seed, and I think that's why, like, Gino, he wasn't upset when the seedings came out, and he wasn't like all up in arms, like I can't believe that they haven't said. He knew. And can I tell you something else? So this is a perfect time to remind everyone, UCLA is the #1 overall seed.
Right.
And they are conducting themselves. They are handling themselves like it. They have depth. They have talent. They defend. They can score. They have the nation's best defensive player and one of the finalists for Naismith Player of the Year on their roster. They're not going to be intimidated. They're going to respect Gino and UConn and everything that they bring, but they're not intimidated to play Connecticut.
Well, remember, what are their 2 losses this season? In 36 games, they have 2 losses to
USC.
That's it.
That's it.
That's the only team that's beaten. And that was USC with a fully healthy Juju Watkins.
And who did USC beat earlier this year in Connecticut?
That's right. That's right. They beat UConn. There are plenty of angles to break down on this game. Let's get more of it from Tampa, where Elise Woodward is anchoring our coverage.
Thanks, Mike. Welcome to Tampa, home of the 2025 Women's College Basketball Final Four, where a champion will be crowned this weekend, and it is a national semifinal filled with the best of the best. UCLA, UConn, South Carolina, and Texas, 3 #1 seeds, and a #2 with the first games tipping off tomorrow. Hi, everyone. I'm Elise Woodward with Autumn Johnson, Big Ten analyst, and the star power is out. We got 4 of the best teams in the nation, and it's a matchup tomorrow with UCLA and UConn that's going to provide a lot of entertainment. What do you make of this overall, Autumn?
Yeah, this is a popcorn game when you look at the best in the nation. Lauren Betts, who's coming off of Naismith Defensive Player of the Year. Paige Becker is one of the best in the game that we have seen, and UConn is rolling right now. But UCLA is here to prove something. This has been a historic year. They've been the #1 team for a course of 12 weeks throughout the season. They are the Big Ten champs and now the #1 overall seed. But that's not where they're settling. They're trying to bring a championship back to LA, who hasn't seen it since the early 80s. So they're still writing their story. I caught up with a lot of these women yesterday, and they're like, we're not just happy to be here. We have something to prove, and it's here in Tampa.
Well, and it is an interesting difference because for UCLA, they've been in the Sweet 16 7 of the last 8 years, but this is their first time breaking through that ceiling to get to the Final Four, whereas UConn has been here 16 of the last 17 seasons. And so even though UCLA is the #1 overall seed, I feel like they also are almost an underdog. What do you make of just the mentality for UCLA versus UConn?
That's a great point, because when you look at this team, yes, they are the #1 overall seed, but you look at UConn, who has been here 24 times on the back of Paige Beckers. Every single year she has been healthy, she has led her team to either a Final Four or a championship game. But they've seen this team back in 2023. They know what it's like going up against Paige Beckers. They know what it's like to go up against Juju Watkins. They don't have a similar game, but you know how to try to neutralize a star, if you will. So they're coming in, yes, with that underdog status, but they're saying we belong. Kiki Rice was writing every single day of this year, we are going to the Final Four. And when I was talking to them yesterday during Media Day, they all told me the Big Ten prepared us for this. They were playing in the Pac-12. This is kind of like a tournament feel for them, facing a different opponent every single day. And now they're coming in, on a different time zone. They've done that with the travel. They're here ready and prepared for this moment because of the Big Ten Conference.
Well, and I think for Cori Close, this is her 14th season leading the UCLA program. This is her first time making it to the Final Four, where you mentioned for Gino Auriemma, this is his 24th time coaching in the Final Four. He's won 11 national championships. How do you think that will play as a factor in this game?
Yeah, the last time we saw this where a player or a coach hasn't been to the championship game or had any experience was Maryland back in 2006. So this is the first time for UCLA. Yes, they are in uncharted territory, but like I said, going up against a star power in USC and trying to take them on 3 times in a row, it's not going to be an easy task. We're going to see Paige Beckers take on the court. Gabriela Jaquez, I imagine, would have that matchup. We've seen Sarah Strong as well hold down the paint for UConn. Lauren Betts is down there. I'm excited for that matchup, but it's going to come down to balance. And we saw that in that LSU game when Lauren Betts sat out in the second quarter and her team was still able to show up. Tamia Gardner, Janiah Barker, that's why you go on the transfer portal, because you have the depth. I think that's a difference maker this year.
Well, and I do think for UCLA, it was a confidence boost. Early in the season, they not only beat South Carolina, they beat them by 15. It was a dominant win.
I was at that game.
Beating USC on the 3rd try. And I think that was a driving factor for them this year to prove they could get to this level. So for UCLA, because they've slayed the dragon in so many different ways this year, how does that change their confidence level?
It does a lot, because you see how that propels them moving forward. They're playing on all cylinders right now, and Lauren Betts in particular, the way she will not be denied, she is making sure that she's taking her team over the edge. And I wouldn't even stop there, because you see the balance in Gabriela Jaquez, Tamia Gardner as well, combining for 9 threes in that LSU game. You feel like you've gotten over the hump in a sense, and I feel like that you've seen you can take on the best of the best taking down a South Carolina. I think that put the nation on notice that we are here and we're here to make a statement. Taking down LSU, they thought about that during the preseason. That was the driving force. I think you look at those games and say we belong, and that's exactly what everyone on this team is echoing.
Well, UCLA trying to win a championship representing the Big Ten Conference for the first time since 1999. We have much more coverage from here in Tampa coming up.
Time for our big interview. We welcome Buzz Williams in right now. Buzz, how is this Maryland job different from any of the other jobs you've had?
Well, I've only been here 32 hours, so I don't know all of the answers to that. Obviously, I haven't coached in the Big Ten. I know that Maryland has not always been in the Big Ten. My familiarity with this part of the country obviously stems from our time at Virginia Tech. Populated with really good players, populated with really good coaches as well. And so to have this opportunity, my family and I, our staff, we're incredibly grateful, but also very excited.
I mentioned the previous jobs that you had, and you have a history of when you build up a program, it doesn't really take a step backwards. It's not like you'll have good years and then bad years. Like you get your system and your culture in, and it stays consistent. Why?
Well, I don't know that all of that has to do with me. I think that it has to do with maybe a portion identifying the right people. You have to be talented coaches, talented players, talented administrators, talented support staff. But I'm not quite old yet, but I'm for sure not young. And I think any organization, whether it's sports related or not, I think it always comes down to the people and the habits and the character and the desire of them on what's important. And our staff and the families that have been associated with the players, we've just always been very truthful and transparent on what we're trying to do, but more importantly, why we're doing it. And I think in the end, that's a big reason for the sustained success that you mentioned.
What are the most important things immediately you need to do? Like, what's on your checklist for today and for this week?
Yes, sir. I'm trying to keep up with it, just to be honest. I haven't slept since I accepted the job, like most coaches. I was thankful that my family was able to be a part of yesterday. And I know the press conference is streamed, and that's probably 20 or 30 minutes. But yesterday, I was on campus for about 18 hours with all of the things that they wanted us.
Keep going. We're just showing that video while we hear from you.
Yeah, I've never seen it. It looked pretty good. I heard my voice and I felt like I was doing something wrong.
No.
I'm just trying to meet with our players. Obviously, I have to hire staff. I want to handle these families that are here, these coaches, the players that are here, the families they represent. Trying to meet the administration and all of the people that are going to be part of our daily activities. While at the same time, we also have to sign a team. And so there's a lot of things that are important. First impressions are not only first impressions, they're lasting. And so I'm just trying to make sure that every interaction we go about, we handle in the right way.
Every coach has a style that they're more comfortable with. Some like high-scoring offenses. Some prefer to focus on the defense. Some love post players. Some like guard play. For Terp fans who are just getting to know you, how do you describe your style of play?
Yeah, my most important style is that we want to play really hard. The second thing is we want to play together. And the third thing is we want to be fundamentally sound no matter what style that it is. We want to make sure that it fits our players and gives us a chance to have the highest level of success. To be honest with you, Mike, it's been a little different everywhere that we've been. I think that's part of trying to be a good coach is you're not always in this day and age going to have exactly the talent that fits your preferred style of play, but it's not about what's your preferred style of play philosophically. It's what makes sense and gives those young men a chance to be their absolute best. And so how we played over the last actually since the pandemic has been almost diametrically opposed to how we played at Virginia Tech. And in many respects, years ago when we were at the Big East, a little different Big East than what it is now, but our style of play then was even different than Virginia Tech. So as we build our roster and we formulate the types of players that we're going to have, I think our style will be, first of all, dictated on playing really hard, playing together, and then playing smart. And then we kind of go from there on, should it be fast, should it be slow, what should we do on both sides of the ball? We'll kind of figure some of that out. I'm also looking forward to studying the Big Ten because I would like to have a better context on what is best to have success in this league.
I know you addressed this at your press conference, and it's unfair for anyone to ask someone to look too far into the future. But the Terp fan base feels a bit spurned right now that they had a coach they started to invest in. After a few years, he left. So how do you ease the concerns for them that you're not going to be gone in a few years?
Yeah, I don't really. Obviously, we were in the NCAA tournament at Texas A&M, and I wasn't able to keep up with all that transpired. To be honest with you, I didn't even know it had transpired until all of this began to unfold specific to me at Maryland. And Dr. Pines presented all of it to me, and I didn't even know. I just knew bits and pieces of it. Similar to what I said yesterday, Mike, words are easy. I hope that my actions and my words match up. And the commitment that I gave yesterday is the same commitment that I tried to live everywhere we've been is you'll get my best. You'll get my best physically. You'll get my best emotionally. You'll get my best mentally. And I'll try to make sure that we hire a staff and assimilate a team that will do the same. And we have a lot of mountains to climb in front of us. Incredibly thankful for the opportunity to be here. Actually, this is the first full day. I just walked into my office for the second time. So we've got a lot of stuff to do, and we're excited about what's in front of us. And I think what has transpired, I don't want to judge that, critique that. I was not a part of that. But what I can speak to is my interactions with Terp Nation, with Maryland, with Dr. Pines, with Colleen. We're incredibly excited about our future here.
Your birth certificate does not say Buzz. It says Brent. This dates back to when you were an assistant in college. You had so much energy, so the story goes, that Buzz became the nickname. When that happened, did you realize that was going to stick?
No, that happened when I was a freshman in college. I attended a junior college in Texas, and the coach is now 88, and he's been a part of our program the last 17 years that I've been a head coach. Coach Orr said I was always buzzing around, that I had so much energy, and so everybody just started calling me Buzz. Obviously, that was a long, long time ago, and to be honest, I think most people think it's my name, other than my wife and my parents. And so it's been Buzz since I was a freshman in college in 1990, and it's just that's how I signed my name now. It's just kind of become that.
Which coaches in the Big Ten do you have relationships with?
Oh, good question. We can go through most of them. Obviously, I know Coach May. We just lost to him a couple of weeks ago. I have known Coach Underwood since he was a junior college head coach when I was a junior college manager. I absolutely love Coach Izzo and who he is and what he's about. I've known Nico since he was at Furman, maybe even before Furman, maybe when he was at Drake. Obviously, I was an assistant at Colorado State a long time ago. I do not know Coach DeVries very well. I met him when he was an assistant at Creighton under Coach Altman, which would have been, 15 years ago. I'm trying to catalog my mind through everybody.
There's a lot of teams now.
Yeah, I don't know how many I've mentioned. I would say I have some level of relationship with most of them. But as far as studying them and knowing their team, I would say I know most of them, but maybe not all of them. I love Mike at Penn State. Knew him when he was a Division III coach before he ever went to Rice. So I would say I know most of them.
You know, a Big Ten coach told me a year ago. By the way, what is the energy drink that we're consuming? I'm very curious.
Currently, it's an Alani Peach that I'm so addicted to that I packed it in my suitcase when the plane came and picked my family up.
Well, that's what happens when you're not sleeping, right? You got to stay awake somehow.
Yeah, and I need to eat something. So this has been not only my caffeine, but also my calories.
A Big Ten coach told me a year or so ago, they said, I'm never again in this new world of college basketball going to go after 4 or 5 freshmen. It's just not worth my time and effort. I'm going to go after maybe a top 30 kid, but the rest of it, I'm just going through the portal. How do you plan? I know this year's going to be a little different because it's year one, but generally speaking at Maryland, how do you plan on creating your roster?
Yeah, I don't think that any coach has the exact right answer. This continues to evolve. The rules continue to change. And I personally think it's going to continue to change. What we've tried to do since all of this started is make independent decisions, not try to make wholesale decisions on we're only going to do it like this or we're going to do it opposite of that. We've had the lowest transfer rate, among the lowest transfer rates in the country at this level when we were at Texas A&M, and we did it through a variety of ways. Redshirting guys, which nobody talks about, for development, through the portal, specific to exactly what our roster needed in hopes that it would advance us to the next level of success, through high school guys with a planned vision on their development on and off the floor. Relative to their vision of what they would like to accomplish academically, what they would like to accomplish relative to their body, and having a distinct plan and vision for each person associated with the program. So we've had players that have graduated in 3 years that were seniors at Texas A&M this year. We had 2 players on our team that were in their 5th year because of COVID. 20% of the population in college athletics changed going into this year because there will not be any COVID seniors in the upcoming year. And so I think that's going to alter some of the landscape. We've just tried not to make decisions for the entire group. We've tried to make decisions independent for that young man and his family, but also for the current roster so that what we create and what they feel is important in the partnership, that we're always aligned specific to that vision. So I understand how coaches say those things and believe those things completely, but it continues to change. And I think it's going to continue to change over the next 3 to 6 years. And so we'll continue to adapt. We'll continue to study the ever-changing landscape and make decisions for those people specific to this institution and what we want to do that we think give us the greatest chance for success.
Final 30 seconds here. I want to ask you about Gary Williams, who, of course, won the national title at Maryland a couple decades ago. We got to work with him a little while ago back at the Big Ten Network, so we got to know how fun he is, how interesting he is. I'm curious, how have you interacted with him over the years?
I've written him letters since I was a kid, including Coach Lefty Drizel. I have the utmost respect. There's only one Coach Williams here. His name's on the court. I anticipate I'll be buzzed to everybody around here and should be. He was sitting on the front row yesterday. He was the first call that I had in this process. I never told anyone in the process of my relationship with Coach. I have the utmost respect for him during his time here, but also his career at all 4 schools that he was the head coach at. And what I've done pales in comparison to what he has done, but I sure hope that we can have a trajectory similar to what he had when he was the coach here. Yeah, all that being said, he's never consumed as many peach energy drinks as you have, so you got something over him. He's a lot tougher and a lot smarter than me. He doesn't need any artificial caffeine to help give him energy. He was sweating through shirts before anybody even knew my name. Buzz Williams, great to meet you, man. Look forward to covering you this upcoming fall. Go Terps. Have a great day. Juju Watkins won the Naismith Player of the Year honor. The USC star now makes it 3 straight years that Big Ten has won it, with Iowa's Caitlin Clark winning the previous 2. Watkins joins a list of USC women to win it. Kind of okay. Lisa Leslie and Cheryl Miller.
How did she get the honor? Oh, I don't know. Back-to-back years, top 5 nationally in scoring. She played great ball against great competition. Her defense was incredible. Steals, blocks, everything. Here's her reaction.
Wow, I'm at a loss for words right now. What an incredible honor. I want to sincerely thank Naismith for this amazing recognition. This is truly special, and I feel so blessed to be selected amongst some of the best in the game. I want to thank my teammates, coaches, and the staff at SC for making this all possible. To my family, friends, the fans, your love and support means the world to me. This is just the beginning, and I can't wait for what's ahead. So thank you so much again, and fight on.
Really is jarring to see her hair not be Juju Watkins' hair at any point. I'm just saying.
It's her game hair, Mike. It's her game hair.
You could talk about her offense. You could certainly talk about her defense. You know what impressed me the most this year? How she handled the expectations. There was so much pressure on the sports now up here because of Caitlin Clark. You're the one who's going to help carry that mantle, and it didn't seem to rattle her at all.
It's part of her greatness. It reminds me a lot of last year's Naismith National Player of the Year and Caitlin Clark. And for me, I mean, we can talk all day about her stats, and you're right. She is the last Big Ten Conference Player of the Year to also make the all-defensive team. So she has an impact on both ends of the court. But for me, that's not what makes her special above everyone else. It's not her stats. It's her transformative powers. Like she elevates her teammates. She elevates the people around her. She's elevated this game the way you talked about. She performs her best when the situation dictates it. She's at her best when she needs to be at her best. And she defies a game report, a scouting report, or a game plan. You can just throw that out the window. She'll still find a way to beat you. Just a special player, and we get her for a few more years, hopefully.
Right, yeah, I'm recovering from the injury. But looking back on this year, what stands out to me is playing UCLA, 8 blocks in that game. That was pretty darn impressive. Speaking of defense, the Defensive Player of the Year, according to the Naismith honor, goes to the crosstown rival UCLA and Lauren Betts. Actually, the first time ever a Big Ten player won this one. First Bruin to ever win it also. She previously won the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year honor, and since she's still playing with the Final Four on Friday, she gave a chat to our Elise Woodward.
Well, what an honor, Lauren, the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, and you're holding the trophy. You got your muscles working today. What an honor for you. What's it mean to you to be able to stand in here with this trophy in your hand?
I'm just so grateful. I mean, defense is something that I've always taken a lot of pride in, but I seriously would not be the player that I am if it wasn't for my amazing coaches and my teammates and everything that this program has done for me. I'm just super grateful.
Defense is about grit and toughness. You've got a lot of bruises to prove that, and it's hard work in there. From that aspect of standing here, what do you take the most pride in about being the defensive player there?
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think it's just the grittiness that I try to bring every single day. I mean, the coaches hold me to a really high standard defensively in practice and in games to kind of just shut down people's offense and make it really hard for them, and that's something that I've just always held myself accountable to as well. But, I mean, it's a very tough job, but I think it's something that I've handled pretty well. So.
When you were a little girl and you were thinking about playing this game and the first time you did, and to be standing at this stage with all this media and this attention and standing here as the best defensive player in the nation, could you have ever imagined being here?
No, I mean, it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, just thinking back to like you said, when we were playing AAU and we were all little, I think just thinking like I would have never thought that I'd be here right now. So just to experience all of this for the first time is just unbelievable. And I know, little Lauren would be really proud of me right now. So.
For you, the journey that you've been on, this is year 3 of collegiate basketball, year 2 with UCLA. Is there one thing that you would credit, or maybe one thing that you do take pride in, to be able to standing here? Is it a lot of film? Is it a lot of conditioning? What is it that you're like, you know what, people don't see me behind the scenes, but this is what it takes to be in this position?
I think it's the growth mentally, to show up and just kind of let go of all pressure and just play my game and to show up on the court for 40 minutes and just do whatever the team needs me to do without kind of being so hard on myself. And I think that's a lot of the work that I've done behind the scenes, just to make sure that I can show up every day and be who I am. So.
Well, and your defense has been a huge reason why your team is in the Final Four here in Tampa with a big matchup against UConn on Friday. As you get ready and prepared for this, which is got to be so much fun. Just tell me about your mindset of doing that against UConn on Friday.
Yeah, my mindset is to honestly just show up and do whatever my team needs for 40 minutes and to just be the aggressor and to honestly just leave my teammates to win that game. But honestly, whatever the team needs, if it's me to score 30, if just for me to get blocks, it doesn't matter. Whatever our team needs to win, that's all that matters at the end of the day. So.
Well, I appreciate your time. Congratulations, Lauren.
Thank you so much.
You know, Betts is another player who had very high expectations this year. She more than met him.
This is right up my alley.
You like
She's a post player. She's a post player. And I'm going to get really nerdy on you right now. Her defensive plus minus is 7.4. So what that means, our teams are scoring almost 7.5 points less when she's on the floor, which is amazing. Her defensive rating is 78, which that means if you take 100 possessions against her, you're only going to score about 78 points, which is amazing. But here's a stat that's really amazing. For as dominant of a shot blocker as she is, she's only averaging 1.8 personal fouls per game.
That's amazing.
Has not fouled out of a game this season. Woo! She's a post player's dream, Mike.
Yeah, that's really hard to do. With that size, with that much focus on you, to never be fouling out is something truly impressive and hard to do. Now, speaking of their upcoming game that UCLA has with UConn, it's time for the Gatorade Game Leaders. Betts and company have one, maybe two games left, and it starts off with the Huskies. That lone remaining underdog of a program is a 2 seed. Huge battle of stars with Betts against Paige Becker. It's very different games, but similar strengths statistically, actually. Let's head back out to Tampa and get a preview.
All right, thanks, Mike. The calendar has turned to April, but we are still talking about March Madness from down here in Tampa, where the women's college basketball Final Four is set to tip off on Friday. Hey, everyone. Elise Woodward along with Autumn Johnson, our Big Ten analyst. And we have some major star power in terms of individuals. 6'7" Lauren Betts, just crowned the Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, is an absolute monster inside the paint. 20 points, 10 boards. She's shooting almost 65% from the field. And, 3 blocks a game as well. She changes the whole game when she's on the court. What's impressed you the most about her season?
I'm going to start on the defensive end since she is the Naismith DPOY. The way she alters shots going in, you have to second guess when you get inside into the interior because you are faced with 6'7" Lauren Betts. The way she can get around effortlessly, moving light on her feet. And also what's impressed me the most is just how she does her work early, that deep positioning. I've been really impressed with how she's either passing out, spraying out to her three-point shooters around her, or posting right back up and putting in, doing her work early. So she's always keeping you on your toes. So Lauren Betts overall has been hard to game plan for. She's everyone's high priority on their scouting report, and she's done a phenomenal job of handling that load. But coming in, she's going to be tasked with the front court line of UConn. I mean, it's going to be tough. She's going to face a lot of pressure, but it's nothing she hasn't seen all season, being doubled and tripled. So I'm excited to see this matchup overall.
Yeah, and I think for Lauren Betts, she's proven there's only been one team that has beaten UCLA all season, and that was USC twice. And they have 6'4" and a 6'6" sub off the bench, 2 McDonald's All-Americans at USC's defense. And as good as UConn is, they don't have a 6'6". They don't have that. And Lauren Betts has dominated in those situations. She's also a very willing and able passer, as UCLA, one of the best passing teams. When she does get double teamed, she's proven she can kick it out and UCLA can score out of that. So from an offensive standpoint, what is it that UCLA needs to do to be able to continue to work Lauren, but then also work if she's getting double teamed?
Absolutely. They need to hit their threes, and we saw that with, Gabriela Jaquez knocking down some shots. Also, Tamia Gardner combining for 9 threes versus LSU. So that opens up the paint for Lauren Betts to operate. Like you mentioned, UConn hasn't faced all season someone who is 6'7". They have Sherrod Strong, who's an undersized post. In a way, she can play that guard position and stretch the floor. So Lauren Betts is going to have to play away from the basket a little bit when she's guarding her and tasked up against her. But offensively, you have to try to make life a little bit easier for her. Her teammates have to step up, which they have done time and time again. But more for me, it's defense, trying to find a way to slow down Paige Beckers, who has been on a tear. It's going to come down to being sound. Everyone has to move and fly around because UConn, they're efficient, and they're efficient on the back of Paige Beckers, who works great in ball screens. She is looking to get just a slither of space to get off her shot. That mid-range is lethal. She can hit it from deep. there's so many different ways she can hurt you. And Gabriela Jaquez, she's going to have help. We saw Juju Watkins, how she was able to come in with this team, and they were trying to send multiple players at her, 2 or 3 players, crowd her space. I think you have to do the same when you go up against a player like Paige.
Yeah, Paige Becker's an incredible season. This will be her 4th time playing in the Final Four. She's just a couple of free throw misses away from a 50, 40, 90 season. It feels like she's on a mission with 3 straight games over 30 points. It's just incredible what she's been able to do. And for UCLA, what a challenge to slow her down.
Yeah, it's a sense of urgency for Paige Becker's, her final ride. I mean, it's going to really be special to be in that building. UCLA going up for their first ever in the NCAA era championship. And Paige Becker is looking to cut down some nets in her story in the great way. But I'm excited. Like, the star power does not lack here in Tampa, and it's going to come down to who wants it more and who executes on both ends.
Oh, it's been a long season, and we are finally at the very end. 4 teams remaining with a championship on the line. Much more coverage from here in Tampa, but for now, we'll send it back to Chicago, Mike.
From John Wooden to Cori Close, the Naismith Coach of the Year honor goes to the lady in charge of the Bruins, the first female head coach from UCLA to win it. She has her team still playing, after all, winning the Big Ten tournament, setting a program record with 34 wins, a chance at the first ever NCAA tourney title. She chatted with Elise.
Well, Coach, what an honor for you. The Naismith Coach of the Year, the best coach in the nation this year. A lot of it, obviously, is the way that your team responded to you this year. But what jumps to you is the pride of being named to this honor.
It really is all about the people I get to share it with. And, I think back to, the late Pat Summitt. I remember her saying that when she thinks of championships or awards, she doesn't really think of the championship or the award. She thinks of the people and the players and the lives. And that's really the only thing that lives on from this. And so for me, it's just about affirming a process, affirming purpose. But I'm so humbled and so grateful. But it really is about the people.
For you, Cori, I think that the definition of doing it with class, doing it with integrity, and it matters. For you, what do you think when you hear those terms associated with the way you run your program?
I just am so grateful. People tell me all the time, ask me all the time what Coach Wooden's biggest impact on me was, and I always say his ability to live principled-centered on a consistent basis. And so I am imperfectly trying to follow his lead in that. And, I think it's so easy to get caught up, and I've fallen, I've done dumb things, I think, but the reality is I've had incredible role models from my personal coaches, both growing up as well as in college, and I've just had great mentors that have showed me that it's great to be successful, but competitive greatness is a byproduct of internal character things and living things with integrity and in a way that impacts others. And to me, I'm just trying to, day by day, live in that truth, even though I mess up a lot.
Well, I don't think you've messed up that much. You're here in the Final Four and a huge matchup on Friday. What's the most exciting thing about breaking through, taking UCLA to the Final Four, and then having a chance on Friday against UConn to even push further for UCLA?
Well, I think it's incredibly exciting, but I will say that we were expectant. We expected to be here. We prepared accordingly. I do think there's a belief in this staff and team that we are equipped, we are ready, and we're not. UConn's a really great team, and they have our total attention and respect. They may have been playing the hottest basketball going into the tournament, and have been playing extremely well. That being said, we're not playing the brand of UConn from the last 20 plus years. We're playing this team in this space, and I really like our team. I think our team has a lot of great players, and we're playing really well as a unit together, and so I'm excited for that space. But I will say a shout out to being a part of the Big Ten, because one of the reasons I think we're prepared for this moment is because of the elite players and coaches that we get to prepare for and compete against throughout that 18-game regular season, and then throughout obviously the Big Ten tournament. But the Big Ten has been a big part of preparing us for this space, and I'm grateful to be a part.
Well, Coach, congratulations, Naismith Coach of the Year, and best of luck on Friday.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
What would you say she has done best this season?
Well, the expectations were on her, and she's been able to manage those expectations, exceed some expectations. But I think what makes her great is not just what she's done this season, Mike. You look no further than the people around her coaching staff. Players have a portal, a transfer portal. Well, so do coaches. And it is really hard to keep a good staff for any long period of time, but she's done that. Her top 3 assistants have been with her almost her entire time at UCLA. Her Dobo has been with her her entire time at UCLA. And I think that speaks volumes about who she is, how she treats people, how she fosters the growth of the people around her, how she engages the people around her, and how she values the people around her that makes them want to stay. So she's an incredible leader. She's more than deserving of this award, but it's not just a one-year award, in my opinion. It's what she's done over the duration of her career.
We started the segment by showing a picture of the John Wooden statue, and of course, she met him when she was 22.
That's right.
He was 83. They started a 15-year mentorship. She didn't get the job until a year after he passed away, but think of how proud he is right now of what she has done. 2 wins away from a national championship. Great way for the Gophers to end. Remember, they started the year 16-1. They lost their star, Mara Braun, had such a tough end of the year. So for them to end on a winning streak with a title feels great.
Anytime that you get to cut down a net, anytime you get to end your season on a win, it's good. You take a look at the last few Big Ten teams that have done well in this tournament, Illinois, Minnesota. Before that, it was the WNIT, Indiana, Michigan. What they've done the year after winning this tournament, at least the second round in the NCAA tournament.
Fingers crossed for health next year for the Minnesota team. Ride this momentum, bring back their players. They could be really fun next season. For Shimmy, I'm Mike. Thanks for watching this edition of the show.